Hi, this is Dan Murray from Interworks. Today I'm going to show you how to use a couple of new version 9 features along with an older feature called data blending. And here's the scenario. I built some analysis of sales from the Superstore data, and this particular view has me concerned. Notice how the three big population states are sort of dominating performance. So you'd expect that. There's almost 40 million people in California, so it's not surprising most of the state or most of the sales are there. I want to normalize this though using population, and my primary data source does not include that information. So I'm going to go out to the web. I know the Census Bureau has some population data, and I found this data set that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to download it, and let's take a look to see what that data set looks like. I'm going to clear the screen here, and let's look at that spreadsheet to just see what we've got. And yeah, this is what I'm looking for. I want these columns here that have population estimates for July of each year. And I'm gonna make some assumptions that I don't need this data. I'm also noticing these extra rows here are probably going to be a problem. And notice how the geographic area contains things like country, region, and state. And if I scroll down, I've got this extra text, and I've got this gap between Puerto Rico, which I'm not really even interested in for this analysis. So I know I got to clean this data a little bit. And here's where the data interpreter really helps. So let's bring this into the view. I just drug that spreadsheet into the view, and I'm going to take a look at it inside the connector in Tableau. And you can see right off the bat that it's noticed that there's some problems with the columns. And I'm going to turn on the data interpreter. And with one click, I've got a nice, clean looking view, but there's still some issues I need to deal with. First off, I don't want these columns. The information is not necessary for what I'm going to do, so I'm going to hide them. And then I'm going to rename these population fields that are actually different years. I'm going to give those names that correspond to the year. So this one I'm going to call 2011. This next one I'm going to call 2012. You guessed it, this third column is going to be 2013. And the last two columns I'm going to name 2014 and 2015. And that's probably the hardest bit of typing I'm going to have to do here. So the other issue I have to grapple with is the multiple different geographic entities in this one column. I'm going to use the split feature in the data interpreter. And there's a couple different versions of this. The custom split is useful if you've got a complicated, concatenations in a single field and multiple delimiters. We don't have that in this case. We have just this one issue with the period. I'm going to use just the standard split. And what that did was separate the state names from all these other things. And I'm going to rename it and call it state. And then the last thing I need to deal with here is pivoting all these years, which are really one measure, their population. And I'll do that by just highlighting them and clicking the pivot option. And now I've got 4 columns, and I'm going to rename those. So I'll call this column year, because that's what it is. It's listing all the 5 years. And this one I will rename and call population. Now if I look at the metadata that I just created, I've got this geographic split. All these things look good. Let me go back and check that column. Yeah, that's good. I kind of like this. So I'm ready to go. I think I'll start doing analysis. And I'm going to go back to my primary data source and build a view that uses state, because that's what I'm going to blend on. And I'm going to pick up sales. And this is the first view we saw. The other thing I'm using is time in this view, because I want it to be sensitive to the year that people are looking at. So I'm going to show this quick filter for year. And I'm going to make it a drop-down single value list. And I'm going to also not show the all, because I don't want people picking that option. Now I'm ready to do my blend. And I have to define it. So I'm going to go up to the data area and edit the relationship here to customize the blend. I know I'm going to use year as part of the blend, and I'm also going to use the concept of state. And so now I've got a blend that's useful. I'm going to lock in both state and year in the blend and pull population into the view. And right out the bat, I can see that this worked. Now I did this so I could do a calculation for per capita sales. And so I'll start by double clicking here. This is using the ad hoc calculations that are new in version 9. I'm just going to sum up sales from the primary data source. I'm going to divide that by population from the secondary data source. And I'm going to multiply the result by 100,000 because I'm going to make it look like sales per 100,000. I think that'll be easier to read. And this looks good. I'm going to exclude District of Columbia because it's sort of an outlier here. And I'm going to pull population into the tooltip so it's still there but out of the view. And I like this sales per 100,000, so I'm going to add it to my data set here and give it the name sales per 100K population. And then I think I'll customize the way that looks by editing the default properties of the number format and call it currency. And let's see if that did what I expected. Yeah, that looks good. Now, in fact, I'm going to pull this new calculation and throw it on the color shelf and edit my colors to look the way I want them to look, which is a grayscale. And that looks pretty good. I think I'll also pick up the per capita sales and drop it on the label. So now what you're looking at are sales for the year 2015. California, New York, and Texas have the highest gross sales, but it's interesting that Illinois and Washington have a much higher per capita sale number. And that's why I did this. Now I'm ready to use this in a dashboard that I've partially built. And I'm going to pull my just completed view into the dashboard. I'm going to hide this for now because we don't need it. And now I can experiment with my filtering, which I've applied across all of the different worksheets here. And you can see that the per capita sales is actually working here the way I expect. I could also turn on filtering in this view and take a look at, say, the Western sales. And guess what? It still works. How nice. Or I could pick, let's say, technology across all regions. Again, everything is sensitive to what I've selected. Or I could go down to the country, turn on the filter there, and use Tableau's new nice selection tools. So I could go and pick an odd collection of different states maybe, and still everything's working right. I've got year filtered. If I go and pick 2013, that's all filtering the way I expect. And there you have it. A little over 8 minutes. What we just did was I had some pre-built views. I went out to the internet, got a spreadsheet from the Census Bureau. I blended it in with my data. I did a calculation using the autofill calculations, the ad hoc calculations that calculated sales per 100,000 people. I got this little issue that I don't like with the District of Columbia, but it was fairly easy to set this up. And then I got it in a dashboard and set up filtering in a way that allowed me to take advantage of the combination blend and still get the right data, the right result. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Come back for more in the future.